I'm going to do everything with chocolate this morning, and I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different things. I can see that Heather is working along because she's in her kitchen.
Yeah.
So if you are working along and you want me to slow down or anything, just shout. If you're just watching, that's also fine. I will try and make some extra things as I go so you can see a variety of things. Okay. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to melt some chocolate. So I've got some white chocolate discs. These ones came from Cab Foods, but any white chocolate is fine. The only thing you need to just bear in mind is that some of the more expensive chocolates aren't tempered. So then you would need to do this whole tempering process, which is basically cooling and warming and stirring. And it's actually a pain in the butt. So I would just recommend you buy these sort of things because they're already tempered and you just carry on with it. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so I'm going to put my chocolate into a nice, so these bowls, okay, hang on, sorry. These bowls here were just cheapy ones from the Pick and Pay, but they work really nicely because they're super thick. So you never get like a hot spot in the microwave. Oh, sorry, I just have to get rid of the wildlife here. It cannot be here. Sorry, I've got 2 cats and a dog, and for some reason, right this minute, they all want to be right here where I am. It's like a zoo in here. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. Okay. Generally, I would say don't have any pets in your kitchen when you're working. This isn't actually my kitchen, though. This is my daughter's bedroom. Okay, so I'm going to put that chocolate in there. I'm not really weighing it up. I'm just putting it in there. Quite a bit because we want to do lots of things. So these chocolate discs, if they get old, they get kind of, I don't know what the word is. They start to discolor. And they go darker color and they don't melt as nicely once they get old. I think it's moisture maybe, I'm not too sure what it is. And with chocolate, if it gets overheated, it will become lumpy. And if it gets any water or liquid in it, will also become lumpy. So we don't want to overheat it and we want to make sure it's all dry and whatever. Okay, so I'm going to stick it in my microwave, which is down here. Handy spot, handy dandy. Let me just actually take this camera there so you can see. Oh, look, okay, maybe I won't. No, there we go. So on my microwave here, I have this option of micro. Can you see that? I don't know if you see so much reflection. Anyway, it lets you choose a lower power setting. So I'm going to put it on 340, which is like 30% power. And then I'm going to put it for 2 minutes. I'm going to press start. Sorry about the noise. And then, so the reason I'm doing that is because if you put it on full power, you have to do what Heather's doing now, which is taking it out every few seconds and stirring. But my problem is I'm always so busy talking that I fail to take it out in time and I always overcook it. But anyway, whatever you do, stir it every so often and then warm it again. And quite often it doesn't need to be in the microwave. So even if it's not completely melted, just stirring it and like the warmth of the bowl and everything will melt it. There we go. Look, Heather's is perfect. I don't know if she prepared ahead, but that's exactly what you want. Nice, runny, not lumpy, smooth, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the feathers. So those are the things that are in the picture for the class. I've made a few for actually a cake order exactly for those for today, which is quite quite accidental, but here are some leftover ones from that cake that I did. You can see these are not the best ones. This one's got a weird thing on the side there. But we're going to do these things. So this you could stick on the side of your cake. You could stick it this way. You could make a, what's the thing, a flamingo or a swan or something with them. And what we want is some baking paper. So this one is also just from the baking store. It is probably the most similar thing you get at the supermarket is Glad Bake. So I think it's like a silicone coated paper. You could probably just use wax paper for this as well. I don't think it really matters. So cut yourself a piece to work on. Let's check on this chocolate. I probably overcooked it already. Okay, so you can see, in there. It doesn't really look like it's melted, but as I stir it, you'll see it starts to melt a bit. Then a nice stir. And with chocolate, you never want it to be sort of too hot that you can't touch the bowl. So sort of like body temperature that you can comfortably hold it in your hands. Okay, so we just need to, I just wanted to, while I'm waiting for this to melt, tell you about the chocolate. So on the chocolate tree, the cocoa tree, it has like a pod. And from that pod, I'm just going to stick this back in for another few seconds. From that pod, they make two products. They make something, oh, there's no lady back again, we lost you. Let's put this back in for a few seconds. So sorry. So from the pod, they have these seeds. They, I don't know, dry the seeds, ferment the seeds. I'm not quite sure what they do. And then they roast them and then they grind them up. And from that, they get two things. They get cocoa solids, which has like a cocoa powder, the bitter part, brown part, and cocoa butter, which is a white fat, basically. And then they mix all that together. So white chocolate has cocoa butter and sugar and whatever else they add to it. Dark chocolate has cocoa solids and cocoa butter and sugar and whatever. So if you look like on those Lindt bars or whatever where it says 70%, that means 70% is the dark stuff. But with these cooking chocolates, this kind, they don't actually use any cocoa butter because it makes it much more expensive, and it's very like, it melts at a low temperature. So that's what makes the expensive chocolates like melt in your mouth, because they're melting at this low temperature. But so actually, I'm sure if you look at the ingredients on this, here we go, let's have a look here. I don't think there's anything from the chocolate tree in this ingredients. So sugar, hydrogenated vegetable fat, which is margarine basically, skim milk powder, lactose, whey powder, maltodextrin, soy lecithin, emulsifiers, colorings. So in fact, there's no actual chocolate in this chocolate. But anyway, onward. I'm just pointing this out so that you understand, you know, what you're working with and everything. Okay, so you can see here it's nice and melted, it's runny, it's beautiful. I'm not seeing any lumps, I'm not seeing any hard, like overcooked bits. It's just right. And it's warm, but it's not very hot. It's very like just warm. Okay. Then I'm going to color some of this. So if you are going to color it, you need to use a powdered color. So I've got a few different things here that I'm going to use. Well, I'm just going to use one of them right now. This one is purple. I don't know why I chose purple. I'm sure I can find something else. I think these have their wrong lids on them. They do too. Hang on, let me just find another color to show you what I mean. Okay, so some of them, the colors that you get, have this kind of shine in them. I don't know if you can really see it in the picture. It's like a glittery sheen. Some of them are just a plain color. So if you're trying to color your chocolate, we don't want to use the gel colors. It makes it harden because the gels are water-based. So it's kind of like adding a tiny drop of water to your thing. You can use these shimmery ones to color it, but they don't really stay shimmery. So if you wanted to have the shimmery effect, then I would just dust it on afterwards. So I'm going to keep that for just now. Okay, so there's my, I'm just going to leave a bit white and I'm going to make some pink now. Pink seems to be the color of the day here. Okay, and the chocolate itself has a slight color. Actually, let's do this around. So you can see it's kind of off-white, I don't know. So when you add the colors, like let's say you were adding blue. If you're doing a pale blue, it might come out slightly like turquoise color because the chocolate itself has a color. So just have that in your mind. As I say, you can dust on afterwards as well, which will help it to be more of the color you want maybe. Okay, so they have added some color, just mix it in. And this brand that I'm using doesn't distinguish between oil-based and water-based, but some of the brands do. in which case you want to buy the oil-based ones or ones that say for chocolate or something like that. Okay, so you can see I've got a pale pink. So even though this is a very Lumo pink color, if you just want a pale color, you just add a little bit. Obviously, if you want it darker, you just add more. I don't really want to go full Barbie here, but let's add a little bit more. Okay, here we go. And I don't know if you can see it's a little bit speckly. So if you are getting speckles, especially with the red and stuff, just leave it to stand for a little bit. You may have to re-warm it then, but usually the speckles will dissolve after a few seconds. I find coloring chocolate red very difficult. It always comes out more like a berry smoothie color, for lack of a better description. Sorry, let me try my lid. Okay, right. So let's make these feathers. So the feathers themselves are actually very easy to make, which is why I'm going to carry on and make other things as well. You'll see when I do them. Okay, so you could do this with a brush if you want. So this is a pastry brush. This one looks like it's seen better days. And you can brush it on, or you can just use your spoon. So I just use the spoon because that's easier for me. I'm going to use the brush now to show you as well. So you just blob a little bit on there. And then just use the back of your spoon to like scrape it away. So you could just leave it like that. Just see that. There we go. Let's get a little light on here. There we go. Or if you want to, you can make it more feathery by dragging it out a few times. Just be careful where it's very thin, like in those patches. Where's that one that I made earlier? So, sorry, this one was half stuck on and then broke. If it's very thin, you could end up with so I don't know if you can see there's a little hole there. So just have that in your mind. And because it's not a perfect science and chocolate is not a perfect, oh, sorry. Shame, little lady, we're missing you. Do you know what's happening here? I would make a few spare ones because you might break one or it's not perfect or it doesn't fit quite where you want it to. That's why I have spare ones from the cake that I made, because I would probably make 10 if I was only going to use 5 kind of thing. Okay, so you can make a few of those if you want to. I'm just going to make a couple more to show you. You can see there's a few little speckles in there. I should have just mixed it a bit more. Okay. So that's the spoon method. Okay, if you're doing it with a brush, it's really just the same kind of thing. I would also just scoop a little bit on there and then just brush it away with your brush. So with the brush, it gives a much more kind of consistent thickness. So here it's quite fat at the bottom. This one I find tends to be, maybe if I put a bit more chocolate, I can make it a bit more bulgy at the bottom. And again, like, just kind of play with it and see what works best for you. I'll just scoop it with the brush. Get enough on. You can see that was just what I had on the brush. It's not really enough. Not with the blob. Okay. And then all you would do is leave these, set them aside to set. In general, I would say don't put chocolate things in the fridge unless you are in a panic. When you put chocolate things in the fridge, they sometimes go, let me just show you on this, I saw it here on this pink one. So I don't know if you can, I didn't put this in the fridge, I think it just got a bit overheated, just causes the same problem. I don't know if it's visible, maybe I'll try and take a picture of it. Slightly like imperfect surface, it looks like it's got a kind of a white, they call it a bloom. I don't know if you can see it. It's usually when the fat, so, there you are, fat starts to come out. So it's either from overheating or putting it in the fridge, usually is what makes it happen. So I wouldn't put it in the fridge unless it is very hot and you just can't get them to set. And if you just can't get them to set, you may want to double check that it is tempered chocolate, because if it's not tempered chocolate, then it won't set at room temperature. Okay, right. Okay, I'm going to just put these guys out of my path for a minute so I can do some other things. Actually, maybe I can just do it on the side here. Right, then I want to show you some options for using textured items. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of bubble wrap. Okay, so this is just normal bubble wrap. Try to find ones where the bubbles are nice and intact. You don't want to, my children are always stealing my bubble wrap and then popping all the bubbles. Drives me nuts. Okay, so I'm just going to just cut out a little square. And I'm just going to paint it, or actually I'm just going to scoop it first onto the bubble side, onto the bubbly side. And then I'm going to just smooth it around and then leave it to set so it can harden. Okay. You can go all the way to the edges. I'm just gonna leave it like that, I think. Okay. And then we'll peel away the bubble. Sorry, there goes the train. I'm just gonna wait for that to pass. Maybe I have a sip of coffee. There we go. Once it's set, we'll peel it away, and the impression of the bubble wrap will be left. And it looks kind of like a honeycomb kind of look. Okay, I'm gonna put him there. You could do anything with texture. So you could do it onto like crumpled up tin foil. I wonder if it would work with crumpled up paper. Let's see. If you want it to look like a, so I've just got a small another piece of baking paper and just crumpling it up. I've actually only done this with tin foil, but I don't have my tin foil here right this minute. So you can see it's got that crumple texture. Paint over it. And all these things, so if you want to try all these different things, whatever you don't like or don't use or spares that you have, just collect up all the pieces. You can remelt them again and use them for something else later. Okay. So that is how you would make something that is textured. Okay, I'm just going to move these guys out the way so I can start the new concept. I'll come back and peel these guys off in a minute. Right. The next one I'm going to do is a flower. Sorry, my brain just had a melt there. So for this, what you want to do, I don't know if you guys have some of this stuff. So this is, these ones are very well used, you can see. So this plastic is from an overhead projector, but anyone that's basically younger than me probably won't know what that is. So if you don't know what it is, count your blessings. But you can just go to the CNA or the PNA or the Waltons and ask for overhead projector paper. Or if you go to like an art shop, just ask for acetate. So this one is the overhead projector one, and it's quite thin and sort of flimsy. The ones that I use, so these ones I use to go around a cake. It's much sturdier. I don't know if you can't really see it, but so there's just a difference in the thickness. These thick ones I buy from the art shop, and I buy them in big sheets and rolls and stuff, then I can cut them to the whatever shape I want. Okay, but we're just going to make some little flowers. For this, I am going to, if you don't have something like this, don't worry. I'm going to use these things. Okay, I've actually got so many here, just to get a few fewer. So it is a Twin Saver tissue box, which I have cut in half to make little kind of curved molds that I'm going to use for my petals. But you could just mold, if you don't have something like that, just take a bottle or something, or a glass. See, this glass isn't going to land to the side, but just a glass like that, something that you can stick it in so that it is curved like that. Okay. I didn't list on the equipment list that you need a Twin Saver tissue box because I just thought this is going to be too complicated. I was kind of like the hell I'm talking about. Okay. I'm also going to use a toothpick for this, so, or something you'll see now. It doesn't have to be a toothpick, just something. Okay, and for this, I'm going to do it with a sort of piping style, which means I'm going to put my chocolate into either a piping bag, or I'm going to use a sandwich bag, just because it's easier, cheaper, cheap and cheerful. Okay, so just a normal, like, little small sandwich bag. Should I do white ones this time? Because this white is setting. Oh, can you see that? So I'm going to pour the chocolate into my bag. Don't pour a ton of chocolate in your bag. It sets quite quickly. So just put a little bit at a time. Okay. Tie a knot in the back of the bag. Okay. There it is. And this is great if you just need to quickly write on a cake or something. I'll show you some writing in a minute. I think I'll put the scissors now. This is my constant problem in life. I cannot ever find the scissors. Anyone else having this? I just had them. Okay, well, never mind. We'll just cut it with a knife then. Why not? It's so good. What you want to do is cut a small little corner off here. Okay. Cut a small little corner off the end there with your scissors, if you have scissors. Cutting with a knife is much more difficult. And I'm on my acetate. I'm going to do, this one's got a bit of a tear in it. I'm going to try and do 3 petals across there. Okay. And I'll show you what I'm talking about as I go. So I'm going to squeeze out probably about a blob, about as big as those, maybe a bit smaller than those discs that I started off with. Okay. There they are. Now I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm just going to drag it through to make a point. Okay. This is going to make kind of a succulent thing that I'm quite fond of making. Okay, and then I'm going to put it into my little mold just to shape them a bit. I've seen people do this in spoons, so little plastic spoons. I've seen them do it. There's lots of ways of doing this kind of thing. Oopsie, don't talk so much, just focus on what you're doing. And to make a good size succulent, I would say you probably need about 15 petals. I'm just going to, I don't have any more of this thin one. I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to make 6 now, and I'll come back and make another 6 once these are set. Okay. And try and get at least the ones on the page the same size. You'll see when we put it together. So my first ones are quite a bit bigger than these ones. I'm not too worried. When I come to put it together, I'll just group the big ones on the outside and the small ones on the inside. Okay, stick it in there. Oh, no, stay. If you're having this problem where it doesn't want to stay, just use a little peggy or something like that, just to hold it in place. Okay. And with chocolate, it's awful, actually awful to teach this kind of thing, because it's like, do this and then come back 10 minutes later and work on it again. You see, these thick ones don't stay nicely in here. But actually, if I pegged it in, it's probably good. Let me do another one before my chocolate completely sets. If your chocolate sets like in the tip of the nozzle here, or the tip of the bag, just like squeeze it out. If you put it down and leave it, it will obviously set quite quickly. If you keep it in your hand, the warmth of your hand should keep it from setting a bit longer. If it's set in the bag, or it's just starting to set in the bag, you can put the bag back in the microwave for like, I don't know, 5 seconds or so, just to warm the whole bag up. Or you can just make a new bag. What is happening here? There we go. Another one of these guys. Oh, just stuck my finger in it. And I'm just going to see if I can get it to stay there with the pig. There we go. That seems fine. Okay. I'm running out of space here. Right. Hopefully this will make enough to make some kind of flour. I've now got 6 plus 5, 11. Yeah, that'll probably be enough. again, it's the kind of thing you might want to make a few spares before you go, because if you break it when you're trying to put it together, you'll be irritated if you then have to start making more petals. Right, okay. Oh. Right, the next, just clean up here a little bit. The next one I'm going to do is a leaf. Okay. See if this is still melting. Okay, it's going to be a pink leaf by the looks of things. There are actually two nice ways to make a leaf. I'm just going to get a piece of paper to work on. And I've still not got the scissors. Here are these scissors. Seem to torture me. Okay. I prefer to cut it with the scissors because then you don't end up with wrinkles from tearing it, which is what I just did. But heavens alive, no, do this. Okay. So the first leaf method I'm going to show you is with this small knife, which I also seem to have in space. There we go. So it's just a small non-serrated knife, which I'm going to use. So I'm going to dip it in some chocolate. Okay. Clean away the back of the knife so that you don't get a lot of things going on there. And then you just kind of want to do it by the side so that you can hold the knife off the edge. Just press it down, okay, and then lift it up. And hopefully when you lift it up, it will form a little vein along the middle. That one didn't come out so great. I think there was a hard bit in there. Just turn it on. And my bowl is a little bit empty now. Just use the spoon. Okay. Okay, so there it is. Pop it down. Lift it up. So you can see it went a bit squonkly. And this is a bit of a knack. Sometimes I have to do a few before I get the feeling for it. Depends on how runny your chocolate is and whatever. And try and lift straight up, not like me, so that your petals are, the vein is down the middle. Okay. You can do the same with other shapes. So if you don't want your leaf to be so pointy, you can use something a bit more rounded, whatever. Just look around your kitchen and see what you've got that you could use. That wouldn't really look like a leaf, but that could make like quite a sweet little daisy petal or something. Same kind of vibe. Whoopsie. There wasn't enough chocolate on there. Okay, so that's one leaf option. The next one I'm going to do uses these kind of things. So you might not have this. I didn't put it on the list because I didn't think everyone would have it. But if you have something like this, these are called combs. So this is the more common one that you get. This one has like smaller teeth. I'll show you now. Again, I'm just going to do it in pink because that's what I've got here. Okay. And for this, you want the chocolate to be quite cool and thick. So that's why I'm doing it now when it's starting to get a little bit less runny. Okay, so in your mind, visualize a line where the central vein of the leaf is. Then take your comb and drag it up. And then the other side and drag it up. So those are now the veins of the leaf. And then just using a palette knife or even your finger, just clean away where the edges, this paper's moving around, of the leaf are. So you can see my leaf could be a little bit pointier at the top there. Let me just go back over it. There we go. It's better. Okay. And again, this takes a bit of practice, I think. You can see the chocolate is basically setting there already. So that's what helps you. So if it's very runny, as soon as you try and do this, you'll see it's like it just runs away. It doesn't keep the shape. So you want it to be, you can see this is almost what I would call at the point of setting. So it's still possible for me to spoon it out with a spoon. Here comes another train, sorry. It's still possible to spoon it out with a spoon, but it is very thick. Okay. So I'm going to attempt it with one of these ones. I've not had that much success making these with them. It needs to have reasonably deep lines. So this is the deepest side. Let's see what we get. So it doesn't kind of, maybe I've got it angled too much. No. Oh, maybe. The problem with this is I've now gone all the way through to the surface. So I don't think it will come away in one piece. But let's try. Why not? And you almost have to clean it in between because so that was caused by this bit of dried in there. You just clean your teeth in between each step. So that's option B. You can also use, so if you went and picked a, like a rose leaf, you could also just paint it onto the rose leaf and peel the leaf away to get quite a nice leaf. Okay. Right, the next thing I wanted to do is show you how to cut some shapes. So, oh no, stick it on top of my other one. Total chaos here. I just want to see if I can share my screen with you. How do I do that? Share screen. Yes, I want to share that. So this is just my Pinterest board of chocolate ideas. We're going to show you on here. Oh, yes, so these kinds of cakes here. This one, there we go. I don't know, can you all see that? Has these kind of squares on it, if you can see them. I don't know, I hope I actually should be sharing it from my phone. Anyway, that's what I'm going to make now. And I'm also going to show you, so if you have a look, where's it gone? This one with like hexagons on it that I had. I don't know. Oh, maybe it's hiding behind here. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to cut out shapes from the chocolate, basically. Okay, so stop sharing. Right, okay. So just so you can understand what I mean by that, if you couldn't see that, I'm going to take another piece of paper, which I've now misplaced the paper as well. And I'm not even really going anywhere. Where are these? Where is that? Tell me that. Okay. My chocolate has basically set in the bowl, so I'm just going to warm it up quickly. If you are working along, you probably will also need to warm up at some stage. I usually find that once you've warmed it once, it's much quicker to warm. Okay. So I'm first going to cut out like squares, simple shapes that I can cut out with my palette knife. And then I'm going to show you to cut out actual, like with cookie cutters. So I found myself a Christmas tree and a star. So I'm going to try doing a Christmas tree with a star and see if it works. Since we are heading for Christmas. Okay. I actually think I just need to melt a bit more. I don't think that's enough for what I want to do. Sorry, this is always the problem with chocolate. There's always this pause time spent waiting for the microwave. Let me just put this in here. So just so that you know, if you don't want to melt your chocolate in the microwave, you can do it on the stove. So what you'll do is you'll have a pot of simmering water and a kind of heat-proof bowl, which you'll put over the water. And just the steam rising up will warm it and melt the chocolate. That is great if you want to do that. I find the microwave much quicker and easier, especially if you need to kind of keep warming and stuff. You do get special pots, and someone actually gave me one. I haven't used it though, where you fill the like part of the pot with water, but it's sealed, so there's no steam coming out, but it can keep its heat for a long time. I probably should investigate that for this class. And while I'm waiting for that, this is just a little silicone mold. This is actually an ice cube mold, but it makes kind of gem shapes. I don't know if you can see them there. So sometimes what I do, if I have leftover chocolate, it's too hard to pour. If I have leftover chocolate, I just pour it into these molds. And then, you know, if I need something quickly, I have a heart one as well. You know, sort of like my leftover bits, these bits, which I will melt now. Then I just pour them into the mold and leave them. So that I mean, you can always remelt them, but see what's happening here. Okay, so there is just there we go. There's the chocolate. So underneath is quite melty that first, but I added the top not so much. A few more minutes, a few more seconds. If you're unsure on your microwave, use the defrost setting. Most microwaves have a defrost setting. I'm also going to do some piping as well. So I'm going to get my piping bag ready. I don't know, I think I might make my Christmas tree a kind of a green color. Let me see if I can find a bowl to mix green and green or bowl. Maybe not. Okay, maybe we'll make a pink Christmas tree then. Perfect. So yeah, I can feel it's quite warm this time. Maybe because I warmed it before and whatever. So even though there's some lumps, I'm sure if I just stir it, it will melt those little lumps. Okay. I'm just going to add some of this melty stuff to my pink bowl while I've got it here. I think the warmth of that probably will melt what's in the pink bowl, hopefully. Okay. Right. Obviously, if you're going to pipe, just make sure you don't have any lumps because those lumps will get stuck in the tip of the bag. This is always an exercise in patience, really. There we go. That's good. Nice and smooth. Right, okay, so I'm going to pour it out onto this piece of paper. I would, if I was doing this for an order or something, I have like a non-stick mat that I use, which is reusable, so you don't end up using so much paper. There we go. So I'm going to spread it around with my palette knife. Oh, there's a lump in there. Go away, lump. And I want it to be thin enough that it's not this giant chunk on the end of my cake, on the side of my cake. Sorry, there are some little lumps there. Let me get them out. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye. Oh, lump. Those are evils. Okay. But again, if it's too thin, like, I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you go. If you can see it here, then that will be a place where it might break. So just spread it around. Sorry, another lump. What's happening here? Okay. Spread it around and then leave it to set a bit. If you wanted to have a kind of a slight texture in the top of it, you can do that with your palette knife as it's starting to set. So if you want it to be like a tree or something, obviously use brown, you just keep doing this as it's setting to give it that slight texture. If I can get it just here. By which I mean bark, or when I say tree. Oh dear, we've lost another lady again. Okay. So you can see that's my textured section, and this is just sort of a less textured section. Another lump. What are these lumps doing here? And you'll see lumps are your enemy. You don't want lumps. Okay, while that is setting, because it needs to set slightly before I can things out of it. I'll just slide it a little bit. Here's our pink again. So I've added some runny bits to it. And these brushes, so once you've finished with it, once you've finished using it, just soak it in warm water and then you should come back fine. Don't wash it and then use the brush again, because it's very hard to get it fully dry and there'll be a little bit of water in there, and then that's going to cause you problems. Okay, I'm just going to stick this back in. Sorry, it's never ending melting. Hang on. Right. So when you're cutting out these shapes, you need to keep your beady eye on this. What we want is for it to be set that we can touch it, that it's not sticky, not going to come away to our fingers, but we still want it to be bendy. Okay. Okay, so there's my pink again. Obviously, I've added more white to it now, so it's a kind of a more pale pink than the one I had before. That's fine. I'm not going to mix any extra in there. I'm just going to go with it. Right. Then I'm just going to quickly go and fetch some sprinkles to add to my tree to make it more festive. I'm coming now. I'll be back in 1 second. And obviously, sorry, the weather is very important. So if it is the middle of summer and it's 40 degrees outside, you're really going to battle to get your chocolate to set. If it is the middle of winter, you're going to have to keep remelting these bowls because they set so quickly in the bowl. So I don't know who's in Cape Town, but it is, yeah, it's like 24 something today. It's a bit overcast. It's actually a perfect day, not too hot, not too cold. But you just need to have that in your mind, especially if you're doing an order with chocolate. You don't want to run the risk of not being able to get it to set, or worse, that it melts while you're trying to deliver it or something like that. So if you're traveling with chocolate cakes and stuff, I would say get like an insulated box so that you can keep it cool in the car while you're traveling. Again, depending on where you're going. I had a few like bad experiences where I had to do a wedding cake and it was like 40 degrees and there was just no hope of it arriving in one piece. Right, okay, I'll come back to that pink in a second. Have a look at what's happening here. So you can see it's starting to set, like where on the edge here I can touch it. In the middle here, I think it's still not quite set. Let me see here. So that's still runny there. So I'm still just going to be patient. Come back to it again. Obviously, where it's a bit thinner on the side here, this part will probably set first. So I'm just going to start with that when it does start. While I've got it here, actually, let me make a little molded thing. And you get lots of different kinds of chocolate molds. This one, as I say, is just a silicone ice one. I think this one came from Clicks or something. But you get different kind of plastic molds. Especially if you've got leftover, just stick it in there and let it form its shape. Again, I'm just going to put this over somewhere to dry. Every surface here has something with chocolate on it. Okay, and then let's pipe a little bit while we're waiting for this guy here. Yeah, he's still not quite set. Okay. So the bag that you maybe were using earlier has probably set. Mine has gone quite solid. If you want to save your, so there is a bit of chocolate left in here, not much actually. what you do, wait for it to set, peel away the bag, and collect all the little bits. So, show you what I mean. So then you open the bag, and you just collect all these little bits up for later, so they don't get wasted. Most of the time, I don't actually have the energy for that. I just end up binning the whole bag, and that's just done. But you certainly should collect your bits. Okay, so there's my pink. I'm putting it into my bag for piping. Same exact method as I did earlier. I'm going to tie a knot in the back. Okay, so here I can see that this is starting to lose its shine. Can you see that? Okay. So once, if you've got something flat like that, I'll come back to this guy in a second. So I'll do this before it sets anymore. Okay. So once it starts to lose that shine, you know that you're starting to set. Can you see? But it is still bendable. Oh, that part's quite set. Okay. So then you would cut your shapes. So if you're cutting with a knife to make those kind of oopsies, tiles on the side, you just cut the shape out. If it's runny, just, you know, kind of ignore that spot. And then we'll come back and peel them off just now. If you're cutting with a cookie cutter, just wait till it's reached this stage. I would maybe just do a little test one first. Again, you might need to, no, there we go, looks okay. Cut it out. I want to cut out a star for the top. So you just cut your shapes. As I say, if it's too runny, that's what's going to happen. I don't know if you can see that. There's a big runny patch there. It's not going to cut. It needs to be firm enough to cut through, but not so firm. I don't know if you can see this little crack here, that you get a crack. So you just want to wait for that perfect sweet spot where you can cut it, but it's, you know. And the way to get that sort of whole thing at the same time is to make sure it's evenly flat. Okay. Right, then I'm going to leave them to dry completely, cool completely before I try and peel them off. Okay, let's pipe. Okay. So this is my little piping bag again. Same thing. Still don't know where the scissors are, so I'm going to just cut it with my knife. I see it's 10:20, so I must work with the again. Okay, and you don't want your hole to be too big. Quite a small hole there. Where should I pipe? And piping with chocolate, again, it's like all of these things, it's a skill. It's very different from piping with royal icing, if you have done that before. So it's much quicker and runnier. So let me just show a few examples. So let's say you wanted to make a heart. If you just pipe out the heart and you left it, when you try to peel that off, it will break. It's got too thin at the edge there. So then you would need to kind of reinforce it by making squiggles or something, or fill it in completely. Okay. Or you could pipe your name. Or you could pipe, and if you make a mistake, you just wait for it to harden and peel it off. Just pick it off if you're doing it directly on the cake. And when you start to write on a cake, make sure that you leave enough. I've got a lump, got a big lump. Leave enough space, or before you start piping, that you've planned where it's going to be, because you don't want to, especially Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, the second word is quite long, so you don't want to have this big Merry and then a Christmas that doesn't fit in. Christmas, like me, you can see, there we go, Christmas. Okay. But I love the way it looks. For me, it looks very fun and fresh and, you know, funky, as opposed to the royal icing, which can look quite sort of set in its ways. Okay, right, so I'm actually just going to go back to some of the first things we did. These slabs probably are done, but I just want to show you so we can go back to the first few things we did. Right, so there are our leaves. Let's see if it peels off nicely. Here we go. If you have some imperfections around the edge, you can either just break them off with your fingers or cut away with a blade or a knife or whatever. So there's a leaf. These little leaves, again, they look like little feathers actually. They're quite sweet. Okay, so that's reasonably simple. I don't think anyone needs a further explanation about those. Here's my crumpled up paper. I'm reasonably certain it's going to break here. I can see it's very thin, but you would just carefully peel it away. Yeah, it broke exactly where I thought it would. And you can see it's got this crumply texture, like a crumpled paper. I'm not quite sure what you would do with that, but there it is. Yeah. The bubble wrap. I actually love the bubble wrap. You can see it already from the back. Just peel away that bubble and you get that effect, like a honeycomb, quite sweet. Right, how am I doing? There's one more thing I wanted to do that just needs to set. So I'm going to do that and then I'm going to come back and put together my flower. Okay. So this one, it's called a sail. Is it called a sail? I don't know, drip effect, splash effect maybe? There's sort of two things you could do with it. Just find some more paper. For this I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this paper, or cut my favorites because I feel like it's scissors, maybe. I'm going to take two pieces of paper. Okay, so this sail, you would just put a little bit of chocolate on there. And again, spread it, pink blob, pink lump. Spread it out nice and evenly, however you want it to look. And then crease your paper like this. You should just crease one side like that and peg it with your peg. And leave it to set. And then when you peel it off, it will have that kind of sail shape that they talk about. Okay. Or you can do what this sort of, there's enough chocolate in here to do it. So this one, I'm sure you've seen them. It's like a drip down splash, and then you turn it over and it looks like something's just landed in there. Okay, so for this one, I've got, this is why I have this glass here. I'm running out of space here. So again, we want it to be runny, but not so runny that it runs right off when we do this. So I'm just letting it sit a little bit down there. Put it over the glass like that. Okay. And you want to let it run down. Hold on, it's quite running. Another minute. And again, you want to take your pegs and just, so you want it to have the shape of this glass. I hate doing these. I hate doing these. I never get them the way I feel like they should be. See what I mean? And you'll need a few pegs for this. I've now run out. Oh, there, the scissors. I found the scissors. Have it here. You can also just fold the paper. I usually do this on a taller glass, but of course I couldn't find a taller one. Yeah, and then you can leave it to sit. I'll maybe take a picture of that guy if he doesn't sit up before we finish. He's just dripping right off the edge there. Oh la la, and I've run out of space. Okay. Just lie there. Just stay there, buddy. Right. I recommend a good big space for this. Right. Okay. So for the flower. Let's go back to that flower. Okay. So I've got all these little pieces here, all my petals. And I'm going to construct it on some paper. And a little piece of paper here. There I go. So these you can just peel them off quite easily as soon as they unfold. As soon as they open up like that, you can just peel them off. If you're finding they're not very set, just chill them in the fridge for a few seconds, just while you're working with them, especially when you're touching them. My hands are very warm, so as soon as I touch anything, they melt. Oh, no. Yeah. So there's my whole set of petals. And I'm going to stick it together with some melted chocolate. I hope there's white that's melted. So in here is just a little bit of melted chocolate. It's just a little bit left at the bottom there. It's not much. Okay, I'm going to start with my biggest ones at the bottom. So I'm just going to just dip it in some chocolate so that it is wet at the bottom and start to stick them. Okay. And with all of these flower type of things, I would say you want to go with your biggest ones at the bottom and work your way in groups of 3 or 5. That's usually the best. Or you could, for this actually, you could just have like a chocolate truffle or something in the middle to form the inside. I don't have anything like that here, so I'm just going to carry on forming it kind of freehand. I want those, see, just broke that guy. Something in between. And I want it to kind of cup upwards, so I'm trying to support them. If you, I don't know, this chocolate's taking ages to set now, of course it is. If you want to support it while it's setting, just take some paper. This guy's my problem child here. Oh, he's already set now. And just support it while it's setting. Okay. So I'm just going to put that under there, just to hold it up while it's drying. And you can see how sweet it looks. Very cute little kind of Cheveria or whatever these types of succulents are called. Very untrained, very untrained. And it does actually set quite quickly, you can see. So this one actually kind of looks like a poinsettia. Maybe it's just a Christmas themed thing. There we go. Our last one, this one's a bit misshapen. It's the one I stuck my finger into. But I think you can see quite quickly why it's useful to have spares. So I could just use one more there just to sort of round this top bit out, but I don't have another one. So we'll just have to leave it at that. But you can see it makes quite a sweet little plant. And then once that is completely set, you can dust with some colored dust, which I'm going to do in a moment. Right. The feathers, I think we saw how they looked. These are my feathers that I made now. When it comes to sticking these on the cake, I would just take whatever icing you've used and just use it like a little bit of tile grout and put a blob on there and just stick it onto the side of the cake. And you can see you can layer them to make a bird's feathers or whatever. Those are nice and easy to peel off because they're quite thick. Let's finish off this Christmas tree here. Where is this Christmas tree? What am I stuck on? Okay, so I'm hoping it's completely set. Let's see if I can just peel it off. So these are the, where's that? The sale one there. There we go. So just by sliding my palette knife underneath, you can see I can lift these sort of rectangles off. Again, you would then stack these on the side of the cake like that. Maybe overlap them slightly so you cover the whole cake. If you want them all the same, make sure you measure before you start so you don't end up with some taller like that one. Okay. For the Christmas tree, I'm also just hoping I can just lift it off. Okay. It's not 100% set. Okay. And then I'm going to use my star on the top. So just peel my star. I'm just going to move all of this stuff out the way so I can finish off this Christmas tree without all of this other stuff in my area. Okay. Right, so there's the tree. I want to decorate it a little bit, so I'm going to take my runny piping icing, which is not that runny anymore. Let's make another little hole. To make a kind of a garland on it. Tinsel, something like that. Okay. And then to make it extra festive, I'm going to use my little gold balls that I went to fetch. And I'm just going to drop them on. They should just stick where the runny pink icing is that I've just put on. Whoopsie. So I'm going to leave that to set a bit, and then I'm just going to shake off any that are not stuck. Right. And now for the colored dusting. Okay, so just to go back to those colors that have the shimmer in them. Is this a pink and purple tree? It's quite something. I'm quite excited. I didn't expect to be making something quite so zhuzhy this morning. Okay, use a kind of a fluffy brush like that, or if you want a finer detail in a smaller brush. Where's that gold one? I had some gold there. This isn't actually the gold I wanted, but I'll take it. Okay, so I'm going to make my whole star gold by dusting it with this gold dust. So you can see the effect it gives. Okay. And the same with any of the other parts that we've made. If you want it to be shiny, you just dust it after the fact. And then for the tree, I'm going to add some of this purple kind of, oopsie, kind of shimmery dust. I don't know. The internet tells me that this whole like pink and pastel Christmas is, oopsie, is on trend. I don't know if that's really true or not. But I'm into it right this minute. Okay. So I'm going to shake off any balls that didn't stick. I'm going to just dust off any excess dust. Okay. And the problem with this dust, I don't know if you can see it there, there's that little crack there. Now the dust has really highlighted the crack, which is not that great. But anyway, so be it. I might have dusted this, if I knew I was going to dust the whole thing like this, I might have dusted it before I piped, because now it's difficult to get in those little cracks and crevices. But you get the idea. And then you can just stick on your star with a little bit of melted chocolate. Okay. My star was slightly oversized for my tree size. And just touch up the gold. There you go, little Christmas tree. So our kind of poinsettia vibe thing, if you wanted to dust this, you could as well. Just dust the tips, or you could dust the whole thing. It's really up to you how you want to do it. If you want to do it, you can also make a little bit of paint. So by mixing the powdered shimmer dusts with a bit of vodka, or there's a thing called quick dry essence, you can make a paint that can paint quite nicely onto the chocolate, and it will be much more blingy, less subtle in this one. Okay, So this guy, I made him on this little piece of paper because there was melted chocolate underneath. When you are ready to put it wherever you want to put it, just peel it off. There we go. Our jewel is not completely set. So I'm dealing with him. Our sail. So these sails, they are always, even though it's gold. I don't know, I'm going to gold it up a bit. If you want it to be super, super gold, you would also again need to paint it. And I don't know how clear this is in the video, but the pink shines through. So if you, I just use pink because that's what I was using at that minute. But if you don't use up your extras. If you want it to be fully gold, just use the white. Okay. And then very carefully, I'm worried this guy might break. He seems a bit thin to me. Let's see. Very carefully, just peel it off the paper. I've already broken it. And again, if it's fully set, it's less likely to break. So maybe before you peel it, just put it in the fridge for a few seconds. Oh, I've broken him. For a few seconds to fully set up so that you don't do what I've just done, which is break it. And break again. It's not going on. There we go. Okay, so you can see it's just broken there. And again, I would make a few spares and make it thick. And if that means coming back and putting a second layer on, you can do that as well. So you leave it to set and then just add a bit of extra chocolate into the patches that are looking thin. There we go. You can see it's gold on both sides. And that's the kind of thing that would stand up on the cake. Sorry, I don't know. I'm just breaking it more. Okay. As for this drip thing, I don't know. Let's see, how does he look here? Safe. I didn't get him on so well. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So you can see the shape that it has. Again, very carefully. I think this chocolate was just a little bit runny. As it was dripping down, it was dripping down very fast. And it looks quite thin. I can see it's already got a crack there. But just don't be impatient. I was impatient because I was worried about the time. Leave it to cool slightly more before you put it over the shape. And very carefully peel away the paper. And then it will form this kind of splash on the top of your cake. Everyone with me? I can see it's got a big crack right there. I don't think I'm going to get this paper off in one piece. Oh, I don't know. Just give it up with a bad job on it. You make one and it breaks. You can sometimes stick it together or revive it. So there's, sort of part of it. I might just, if I was, depending on what was happening, I might just stick that down with some extra chocolate and just go for it. But you can see the effects it will give you. All my things are broken. I'm having a bad day. And I think that's everything I was going to show you. Does anyone have any questions?
No, but I want to show you. I've just got to pull it out. If you take a cupcake holder, you get quite a nice shell effect.
Oh, that's lovely. Is that from what did you use for that?
The paper cupcake case.
Paper. What a good idea.
So it's already got that shell shape.
Shell, exactly. That's why I quite like chocolate. It's very creative. You can do so many things with it.
Yeah, so I've got some nice shells there now. So it was just one of these guys.
Oh, yes, perfect. And most people will have those. That's brilliant. What a good idea. Cool. So I'm going to upload this video. I will try and do it tomorrow. If it isn't done tomorrow, it will definitely be done on Monday. Things are a bit chaotic. I've got so many orders this weekend. I really don't know what I was thinking, taking so many. But if you have any questions, you are welcome to just WhatsApp me anytime. I think everybody has my WhatsApp number. If you don't, just send me an email and I'll give it to you. I'm much more likely to reply on WhatsApp because I have my phone with me much more than I am at my computer. If you are stuck in the future, you're also just welcome to text me. And yeah, I will see you guys. I don't know. Heather, I'm seeing you in like
half
20
an hour or
minutes.
so. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the terrazzo fondant thing.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Cheers.
Okay. I'm going to say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Oh dear. Everyone okay there? Okay. How do I stop this thing?